Ferrari thought this rebuild was finished before it even started. They assumed that without their approval, without their parts, without their blessing, the car would just sit there. A write-off, a cautionary tale, proof that nobody touches a Ferrari without Ferrari. They were wrong. Matt Armstrong has the car, he has the team, he has the plan, and he is moving forward whether Ferrari likes it or not. If you love insane rebuilds and manufacturer drama, hit subscribe right now because this series is going to get very uncomfortable for some very expensive Italian suits. When Bugatti blocked a rebuild, they at least tried to frame it as a safety argument. Complex engineering, bespoke systems, lives at risk. You can disagree with that, but at least there was a story there. But here's the problem. Ferrari did the opposite. Now warning, no safety concerns whatsoever. They just waked up one morning and say, Matt, you know what? You can't start this car, and that was it. But now everything is about to go in a way Ferrari never imagined. Here's what Ferrari doesn't like people talking about. There are professionals who have spent years mastering how to replicate factory-level finishes down to the smallest detail. They don't estimate, they measure. Panel alignment, paint depth, surface consistency, everything is controlled. So Matt is now looking at a situation where even if every physical component is perfect, the car could still be a very expensive statue, locked out of itself, waiting for a permission it is never going to receive. And this is the moment where the plan changes. Watch what happens next, because this is where Ferrari loses control completely. There are people out there, and I want you to understand how specific and skilled these people are, who clone Ferrari computers. Not hack them, not bypass them through some crude workaround. Clone them. They take a donor car, a Ferrari of the same model and generation, and they extract the software and the system identity from that car. Same architecture, same calibration data, same operational logic, and they transfer it. They put the brain of one car into another car. Now Ferrari will tell you every car is unique, every system is coded to a specific vehicle. They will imply that what these specialists do is impossible or illegal or will result in a car that does not function properly. But here's the reality. These cars are not programmed like snowflakes. They are not given completely unique software written from scratch for every individual unit that leaves Maranello. They are production cars. Extraordinarily expensive production cars. Yes. But production cars. The software architecture is shared. The systems communicate in ways that can be understood, replicated, and transferred if you know exactly what you are doing. The 296 GTB is not just a car with a powerful engine and a pretty body. It is a rolling network of interconnected systems, each one monitored, managed, and in many cases gated behind Ferrari's own diagnostic infrastructure. You cannot just plug in a generic scan tool and read what is happening inside this car. You cannot access certain modules without credentials that only authorized Ferrari dealers hold. And if a component needs to be married to the vehicle, needs to be coded and confirmed as part of that specific car's identity, you need Ferrari's cooperation to do it. Except Matt is not getting that cooperation. This is where it gets worse, because it is not just about running diagnostics. Some of the systems in this car will not function correctly, will not allow the car to operate at all, without confirmation that everything is in order. Ferrari has engineered dependency directly into the vehicle. You buy the car, you own the car, but the car still answers to Ferrari, and the people Matt is working with know exactly what they are doing. So let's say this out loud in plain terms. Matt is actively plotting to disconnect this Ferrari from Ferrari entirely, to take the cloned system, install it, marry the components, and bring the car back to life without a single piece of documentation, cooperation, or authorization from the manufacturer. If this works, and the specialists involved believe it will work, Ferrari's refusal becomes completely irrelevant. The wall they built was not as solid as they thought. But then the structural report comes back, and everything stops. Because there is a moment in every serious rebuild where the project either survives or it doesn't. With the Bugatti Chiron story, the gearbox was that moment. The part so expensive, so exclusive, so controlled that the whole project balanced on whether it could be sourced. That was the pivot point. Everything else was noise until that question was answered. With this Ferrari, that moment is the chassis, and the report is not clean. There is damage in a section of the structure that goes beyond what is visible. Not catastrophic, not irreparable by definition, but deep enough that it raises a question that nobody in the build wants to answer too quickly. Because if the structural integrity has been compromised at a load-bearing point, if the geometry of the chassis is off beyond what can be corrected through conventional repair, then the rebuild does not just get harder. It becomes the thing Ferrari said it would be from the beginning: impossible. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because Ferrari's entire argument, their refusal to engage, their wall of non-cooperation, has been dismissed as image protection and brand control, and it is those things. But if this chassis report comes back with numbers that cannot be corrected, then Ferrari gets to say something much worse. They get to say they were right, not about control, about capability. This is not just about one car anymore. Think about what you actually own when you buy a vehicle like this. Not the mechanics, not the software, not the right to repair it. You own the experience of driving it. You own the bragging rights. You own the privilege of being permitted to use it within the terms that Ferrari has quietly embedded into the relationship from the moment you signed the purchase agreement. Who can touch it? Who can diagnose it? Who can bring it back to life if something goes wrong? Ferrari has answers to all of those questions, and the answer to every single one of them is Ferrari. And this extends far beyond Matt's project. This is the future they are building, a world where the manufacturer does not just make the car, they maintain a permanent stake in its existence. Software updates that require dealer authorization, diagnostic systems that lock out independence, replacement parts that only function if they are coded through official channels. It is a subscription model wearing a supercar's clothing. Matt is not just rebuilding a car, he is stress testing a system that the entire industry is watching. And the independents are watching too, because if Matt pulls this off, if the cloned system integrates cleanly, if the chassis repair holds, if the 296 GTB starts and drives and performs the way it was built to perform, then every manufacturer running this playbook has a problem. The precedent is set, the method is documented, and the wall has a hole in it. But the chassis report is the unknown. The body is coming together, the cloning specialists are standing by, the plan is in motion, the workarounds are ready, everything that needed to be sourced has been sourced, every system that needed to be understood has been studied. The only question left is whether the car itself will allow it. If the structure is solid, if the geometry holds, if the repair is viable, then Ferrari's refusal does not matter. The software gets cloned, the systems come online, the car comes back to life, and Matt finishes this rebuild without a single phone call to Maranello being returned. But if that chassis measurement comes back wrong, if the damage runs deeper than the repair can reach, if the one thing that cannot be replaced turns out to be the thing that is broken, then the project ends here. Not because Ferrari stopped it, not because the software was impenetrable, not because the parts were unavailable, because the car itself said no. That is the only way Ferrari wins this. And right now, nobody knows which way it goes. One car, one rebuild, one manufacturer who thinks they still own what they already sold, and one builder who is about to prove them wrong. This is the fight that changes how we think about ownership, about control, about who really holds the keys after the sale is done. Stay with us, because this is only the beginning. If he pulls this off, this changes everything. Subscribe because you do not want to miss what happens next.